Chapter 11. Sea Snakes. Through a pair of sunglasses, Annalise glanced over the top of her magazine, staring across the waterfront plaza of Aristoteles Square. The coastal breeze of Thessaloniki managed to counteract the ruthlessness of the Macedonian sun, offering a pleasantly temperate climate. She stared at a small door to a souvenir shop across the plaza, almost 150 meters by her estimation, with magically enhanced eyesight. Keeping her eye on it, she waited. But the longer she waited, the more her mind kept drifting to those dreams she'd been having. 2 of them. If these were going to become a constant, she would really prefer it if Alexander's emissaries were clearer about what exactly she was getting herself into, especially if she had to watch herself make that damned stupid mistake again. It was like the dreams were taunting her, dangling the promise of that bitter memory in front of her like the season finale of a particularly stressful TV show. Maybe she should ask if the others saw anything different. Once she was out from under the oppressively watchful eye of the Hecatean Circle, she could feel the ever-present static of their surveillance network in her arcane senses, like a weight just barely hovering over her chest. She shook her head. No use worrying. Even if she was caught, it was worth it to shoot at the proverbial kneecaps of the Hecateans. But she wouldn't be caught, because she was ready for this. That was the whole point of this. She'd lied by saying she was only in this hunt because she feared for the balance of power between the circles. Undoubtedly, part of her truly believed that was a present danger, but her real reason was so much pettier. She was fairly sure that she didn't have to save the world to get what she wanted, but what better way to prove herself? The thought of it sent a small thrill jolting up her spine, just like the prospect of the hunt for the tomb itself. Annalise sat up as magic burned her senses like a huge whiff of petrol from a car exhaust. The hell was going on in that shop? She stared at the door across the plaza as it burst open, nearly coming off its hinges. Yanni, carrying a large duffel bag, stepped out of the shop, rolling his shoulders as if trying to get a kink out. Annalise pressed her earpiece radio as civilians backed away in shock. "Setanta, what the hell was that blast of magic I felt?" she asked. "Detection enchantments are all over the city. Your usage was not to exceed 2 meters of sensitivity." "Do you not think I heard you the first 50 times you said it?" Yanni said. "It was either that or a gunshot in a public square." Annalise squeezed her eyes shut, whispering a curse under her breath. "Look, I was compromised, but I got the apparatus." She sighed. Her mind raced. They had the apparatus, but at what cost? When would the Greeks descend on them? Would she have time to shut down their network? "We're going to have to move fast," she muttered. "Are you pissed? You seem pissed." Yanni's voice was like a squawking bird in her ear. "I gave you specific instructions to avoid drawing attention," she said as Yanni finished his walk across the plaza and joined her with the bag as she gathered her things. They started north, away from the waterfront of Thessaloniki. "You really shouldn't expect that much of me. Are you always this miserable?" Yanni asked, hovering over her shoulder as they walked. "Or does the sunlight make you cranky?" "I'm not miserable," Annalise growled, crossing the street. "Could have fooled me. Just because you gave me instructions doesn't mean everything's going to go right," Yanni said. "How have you gotten this far with that attitude?" "How have you gotten this far?" Annalise snapped. "With your constant complaining. Do you even care about finding the tomb, or are you just here to crack wise?" "Oh, right, that's me. Mr. Class Clown, resident chucklefuck. Not miserable, huh? I've never met someone as cranky as you. You stress me out, lass," Yanni hissed as they turned a corner and started down a sun-baked sidewalk along one of the main roads. "And for your information, I do care. I seem to care much more than you do. And if I really want something, I don't give a damn how it happens." Annalise pinched the bridge of her nose. Her first instinct was to fire back again, but she couldn't afford to psych herself out of the mood to dismantle the apparatus, especially if they were going to be on the clock. "Look, sorry I couldn't pull it off exactly the way you wanted," Yanni sighed as they turned right, down one of the side roads next to an Orthodox church. "But I took out those Hecatean lackeys before they could call reinforcements. We're deep in it. Can't afford to be perfect or fight too much." Annalise shook her head. "If any of us slips up, it could lead to us not waking up tomorrow. We can't afford to take those kind of losses." "Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree," Yanni sighed. "You can think I'm a brute or a moron, but caution is a luxury. The circles want us to play close to the chest." "If you want to leave yourself open like that, fine, but try to consider other people, tough guy. I'd rather not make any stupid and avoidable mistakes." By the time they'd finished slinging mud at one another, they had returned to their hostel, Zeus is Loose. It was certainly a name. The hostel was a 7-story tall baby blue building with a bar at the top. For all the amenities it had, it wasn't the most sociable place, something Yanni had spent the last night lamenting. They passed the front desk and took the elevator to the 4th-floor kitchen, covered in large windows and giving the modern interior a pleasant dose of sunlight. Yanni set the duffel bag on the table farthest from the elevator, in front of the full-size kitchen island. The area was devoid of anyone, allowing Annalise to open the bag and pull out a wheel of solid brass and copper, with concentric circles loose within its boundaries. Stripes of ivory along each wheel had sets of symbols carved into them. "So, what is this thing?" Yanni asked. Annalise scoffed as her fingers ran along the symbols. "I thought you were a Greek magician." "I'm not exactly the most studied magician in the world." Yanni shrugged. "Only got my first burst of Greek magic a month ago." She sighed, though she couldn't really blame him. It wasn't like the other circles welcomed defectors to learn their magic with open arms. Annalise had gotten lucky. She would often trade information for information with other circles, exchanging intelligence for understanding of their magic. In fact, she could teach Yanni a little. From how I understand it, at least, Greek magic is split into 3 types: Homeric, corresponding with the Achaeans, classical, and Hellenistic, for everything after Alexander the Great, she said. "Wait, how do you know this?" She gave him an unamused look. "You could afford to open a book once in a while. Now, pay attention. Homeric magic channels power through magical objects, rare plants, and divine theurgy. This is what we have here, a codex wheel connected to a bunch of other wheels that create a network all over the city," she explained, setting the wheel down. "The key to breaking Homeric magic is not with a counter-charm or other arcane solutions. There's typically a weakness that can be puzzled out." Yanni nodded. "In this case, it's literally a puzzle, right?" "Well, not exactly." Annalise chuckled. She picked up the wheel and smashed it into the table, causing the concentric rings to scatter everywhere. "Jesus!" Yanni flinched as metal flew past him. "How the hell is that supposed to help?" "The codes and symbols were a red herring. The arcane wiring just serves to alert the other wheels of its position. Fiddling with it would have been our downfall," Annalise said. "Odysseus defeated Circe by threatening her and making her swear an unbreakable oath. Often, the simplest answer is the correct one." She let out a sigh of relief as the omnipresent static washed away, the presence of the network gone. "See? And now we can make our own link in the chain out of its pieces." She grabbed a clay tablet from her backpack. With a small amount of theurgy, she wetted the tablet enough to write on, turning it into a katadismoi, a Roman curse tablet. Granted, she never used it for curses. They took too long and were too convoluted. "What's that for?" Yanni asked. "It's for scripting," Annalise said. "It's like programming, except with, magic." Yanni chuckled. "Well, would you look at that? Seriously, how do you know so much about this stuff?" She grimaced. "A mix of opportunity and curiosity." "Well, that curiosity of yours is fucking something." Annalise scoffed, embarrassed to take the praise. "It's not so anyone could have..." She sighed. "I'm glad you see it that way." "Guess we can finally use our phones again," Yanni said, pulling his out. "And I can access the last few days of communications on our opponent's side." Annalise knelt down to the wreckage of the disc and plucked out a small green gemstone humming with arcane energy. She focused on it, synthesizing the traces of data into her ADZ display. "Shit!" she hissed. "What is... Oh, that can't be good." Yanni looked at his own display in his vision, and a message about assassins deployed 2 days ago. To Crete. "I don't believe you," Marion chuckled as they were dropped off in a small parking lot on the coastline in Plakias, a small beach town on the southern side of Crete. "You mean to tell me the moment I left, that coin started casting spells?" The parking lot sat just off the main and only real road in front of a car rental. The sun beat down on Henry's brow as he scanned the horizon, finding nothing but mountains to the north, east, and west, all the way down to the pier in the west, and as far as he could see to the east. The main road was lined with restaurants, claiming half the road with outdoor seating, supermarkets with sun-baked signage, souvenir stores built like labyrinths of postcard stands, and tourist offices, using repurposed janitorial signs to advertise their services. "I'm serious. My swords have enchantments on them that weren't there before. I can call them back to my hands and shit," Henry said. But if the coins can all do something like that, they might balance the playing field for us. Did you know they could do that?
I didn't know they could do that with your swords. I just thought it would have taken longer for it to manifest.
You really need to tell me this stuff, Henry insisted. Stop being coy about it.
But where's the fun in that? Marion threw her hands up. Besides, I kind of forgot.
You forgot. Henry frowned. Brilliant save.
I'm serious. I'm really bad at keeping track of this stuff.
He was about to accuse her further, but as he thought about it, nothing he'd seen contradicted her explanation. Actually, traveling with her just these few hours had proved what an impulsive and disorganized person she was. It wasn't always a bad thing. He himself wasn't huge on the details, but he still preferred to plan ahead. Marion was on another level, and they were in a possible life-or-death situation here. Henry's stomach roiled as it groaned for food, interrupting his thoughts. Well, let's get to the hostel first. I need breakfast. He sighed. But at some point today, you should tell me everything. I'll note it down in my journal.
I need a shower.
Marion grimaced after toying with a strand of her hair. It was oily, but nothing compared to the clumped strands atop Henry's head. But food was more important than cleanliness right now. We both need sleep, too. I think in the past 3 days, I've gotten a grand total of 5 hours. Marion groaned.
Oh, I would kill for a nap. I hope this place is nice.
Well, it looked decent when I booked it, and it has good reviews, Henry muttered. He and Marion made their way past the main town, which had proved to be no more than the one main road, and made the journey towards a single hostel in Plakias, going across dirt roads, old pavements, and gravel pathways, weaving through resorts and hotels. In spite of how remote this place was, tourists accidentally seeing through Solomon's wisdom was probably their biggest problem. Well, if he was lucky. The two of them turned off their maps as they glanced to the left, where the hostel was supposed to be. In front of them, off the gravel pathway, was a 2-meter-tall white plaster wall. Under a small arch, they entered onto a small cobblestone path that wound its way through a grove of olive trees and white stucco cabins, dotting either side of the path, shrouded by the grove's shade. A cat pranced across the path in front of them as Henry spotted a central pavilion at the end of the grove. The patio was occupied with a few tables flanked by either white lawn chairs or wooden benches.
You sure this isn't a campground?
Marion frowned. Well, it's called Youth Hostel Plakias, so I'm guessing the owner would disagree, Henry said.
It's unique, if nothing else.
She glanced to the left as the grove opened up into a small field of grass with a row of trees around the edge of the property. Each of the trunks supported a hammock.
Oh, those look like the perfect place to read.
I can actually practice here. Henry stamped on the dirt beneath his feet, instead of bashing my knees against concrete every time I do a butterfly stance. The central pavilion also happened to be home to a kitchen, creating a unique open-air atmosphere for pretty much everything. 5 or so girls in their late teens and early to mid-20s were occupying the kitchen, making something for breakfast. Excuse me, do you know where we can check in? Henry called out.
Oh, the office is just through there.
A girl with braided blonde hair, wearing shorts over a red 2-piece bathing suit, pointed to a doorway in the back of the pavilion.
But the owner's out right now.
She had an English accent, but Henry wasn't too good at placing the region. His nose caught a whiff of whatever was in their pot. His mouth watered. Second question. Do you guys mind if I have some of whatever you're making? I haven't eaten in like 2 days.
Sure, the girl smiled. It's pasta for breakfast, but if you're fine with that, we have enough for everyone.
Henry turned to Marion and jabbed his thumb at the pavilion. I'ma go eat.
I'll get a shower then. Which?
Her eyes landed on another building made of white stucco and separated from the cabins, pavilions, and pathways. She sighed as she set her backpack down and fished out a change of clothes, toiletries, and a towel.
Store my bag away, will you?
She asked as she headed towards the bathhouse. Henry grabbed both their backpacks and their gun bags, stowing them in the owner's office through the doorway in the pavilion. When he emerged, one of the girls handed him a paper bowl filled with pasta with some kind of pesto and a fork. Thanks, he grinned. He wandered over to one of the many plastic tables surrounding the edge of the patio with an empty white lawn chair. Mind if I join you? He asked the current occupants of the table, which included a man with a wispy beard, a shaggy haircut, and large round glasses, and a woman with suntanned skin, a pleasant smile, and silky blonde hair.
Sure thing,
the man responded with a quirky smile and an Australian, or New Zealander, accent. Henry could never tell the difference. I'm Henry, by the way,
he said, shaking both their hands, eager to get the pleasantries out of the way so he could eat. I'm Sahara, the woman said, also in an Australian accent. That's Percy. Nice to meet you, Henry said, already stuffing his mouth. Sahara, like the desert? Yeah, like the desert, she chuckled. Henry nodded, barely swallowing before wolfing down more pasta. I haven't eaten anything but saltine crackers for the last day and a half. No worries, mate. Percy grinned. Where you from? Henry swallowed before answering this time. The Midwest. Iowa, if you know where that is. Percy gave him a so-so gesture. How about you two? New Zealand, Percy said. Sydney, Sahara added. Did you come in on the ferry? This morning, Henry mumbled. Took a bus straight here from Kanya. Percy laughed. That explains your appetite. You didn't stick around to see Kanya? Sahara asked. It's worth a visit. He shrugged in response. You guys been traveling long? What can you recommend around here? Henry asked between bites. He wasn't just talking to talk. He was looking for a lay of the land from a tourism perspective, in case he had to worry about spectators when he went after the coin. We're just here for a few weeks, though this is one of Sahara's favourite spots to come back to. We're on more of a work trip, so we haven't gotten out to see much, Percy said. But there is a hike from here to a gorge about halfway up the island that was a real treat. Oh, and the hidden beach is nice. How about yourself? Is this your first time abroad? Well, I never really had anything to spend money on. I've been working the last 2 years, had a lot saved up and thought, fuck it, Europe trip. Not my first time going international, though. Henry lied. Oh yeah? Where have you been so far? Henry pursed his lips. Morocco and Italy so far, not counting Greece. Planning on going to Turkey, and I'm gonna see if I have the cash to get to Egypt. Egypt? Oh, I love being there. Just make sure you don't let the shopkeepers rope you into buying anything you don't want to pay for. Sahara smiled, clasping her hands. Henry raised his eyebrows. I dealt with that plenty in Morocco. He glanced to his left as Marion walked into the courtyard from the bathhouse, drying her wet hair and wearing a swimsuit top and shorts. She caught sight of him and joined their table. That was fast, Henry muttered. She scoffed, a hint of defensiveness in her voice. I'm clean. And this is? Percy asked. This is Marion. She's from Germany, Henry said. Marion, this is Percy and Sahara from New Zealand and Australia. Nice to meet you, Marion grinned. Are you two traveling together? Percy asked. I wanted to go to Santorini at first, but Santorini is Santorini, not too budget-friendly. Plus, all the flights were super early, so I decided to just tag along with Marion. Henry lied. And what brings you all the way out here? Percy directed that question to Marion. Just taking a year off before I start uni next semester. Oh, wait, so then how old are you two? Sahara asked. If you don't mind. 20, Marion said. 19, Henry said. 19? You're only 19, Sahara exclaimed. Well, she's only a year older. Henry nodded towards Marion. Yeah, but she's 20. It just sounds different than 19. Sahara pursed her lips. You're a baby. I've been mistaken for 30 once, Henry claimed defensively. Sahara scoffed. Is that something to be proud of? I'd give you 22, max. It's the beard, I think. Henry scruffed up his goatee. He wasn't really able to grow much facial hair on his cheeks, so he settled for what he could get. Yeah, now I see it, Percy chuckled. Still, 30's a stretch. How long are you guys staying here? Sahara asked. A few days. We're taking things slow, Marion said. Oh, well, if you have the time, you should really come out clubbing with us, Sahara offered. A group from the hostel is going as well. Henry met Marion's glance again. Well, we didn't exactly get to experience the pub crawl in full last time, she said. I don't know. I've never been clubbing before, Henry said. Sahara let out an excited gasp. Plus, I'm not much of a drinker. It's not legal in America until you're 21. I forgot about that, Sahara exclaimed. Oh, now you have to go. I'll buy you some drinks. I want to see you shit-faced. Henry felt dread start to creep up his throat. He didn't really want this distraction getting in the way of his hunt. But then again, it wasn't like he had much else to do while Annalise and Yanni were taking care of things up north. Don't worry, we'll take care of you if you can't hold your liquor, right? Marion smirked, glancing at Sahara. Without a doubt, she said with an almost predatory tone.
She and Percy left the table with their dishes scraped clean as Henry leaned towards Marion.
"There's a place nearby called the Hidden Beach, apparently," he said.
"Wanna head there to do a sweep?"
Marion shrugged.
"I could do with a change of scenery. If that's not private, I don't know what is."
"Seems fairly public to me," Henry said as he and Marion landed on the gravelly shores of a beach, closed in by several weed-infested rock formations. There were several families and couples littered around the beach and in the coastal waters. The searing hot pebbles would have hurt, but one perk of knowing fire-style Wuxing Qin was an increased resistance to heat. Marion tiptoed across the pebbly beach and was quick to lay down her towel and step onto it. Henry drew the character for silk in the pebbles and grabbed onto the edge of a silk cloth, which he lashed into a blanket for him to lounge on.
"It's pretty empty, all things considered,"
Marion muttered, toying with the golden sunburst on her chain necklace. They had both changed into beach-worthy attire. She was sporting a two-piece bathing suit with a top patterned with something akin to tile mosaic, while Henry sat with an open button-down shirt and a pair of solid-color trunks. Marion grabbed a folding map of Crete she had swiped from the Rethymno bus station and laid it out on the pebbles. Henry helped pin it down with his butterfly swords. She took a spool of golden thread and lined the map with it.
"Can I see your riverstone?"
She held out her hand. Henry pulled the paracord off his neck and gave it over. "Don't you have a radar?"
"They're too expensive," Marion sighed. "My sunstone is a good alternative. I can still cast the spell. I just need a conduit."
She unclipped the sunburst necklace from behind her neck and held it up to the actual sun. She placed the riverstone under it, like a lens, and the sunstone in the middle of the golden pendant seemed to refract the sunlight into the visible color spectrum before the riverstone cast it over the map, highlighting sources of magic. Henry fiddled with the silk knot on his left forearm, hiding a rope dart in his sleeve. The dart's blade was now enchanted with the honor coin's power, which turned it into a much more versatile tool, able to launch at any target he willed and retract into a perfect wrap around his arm in under a second. It was different from the swords in that there was only one axis of movement, wherever his arm was pointing.
"We have 2 big hits,"
Marion said. Henry stopped messing with his weapon and pulled out his phone to take a picture of the map. He showed her the photo as she returned the 2 necklaces to the rightful places. There were 2 heavily saturated splotches of blue in their area, with smaller dots splattered across the map. "We have one in the gorge just north of here, where I was suspecting it might be," Henry said, "and one to the east at Clydesi Beach."
"The people at the hostel called it One Rock, right?"
"Yeah, something about an underwater tunnel," he muttered. "What do you think?"
"It'll be much easier for people to go to One Rock," Marion said. "We might encounter problems, but it's probably the first place any of our competitors would check."
"I don't know. I think the gorge is more likely to have it," Henry said. Marion pursed her lips, considering.
"I suppose One Rock would be better to cover at night, for the sake of avoiding tourists and all. We'd go to the gorge tomorrow then. Hopefully Annalise and Yanni can find a boat to get here before then, assuming everything went well for them."
Henry's phone buzzed with a notification. He pulled it out of his bag to find a message from Annalise. "Speak of the devil."
"Is it them?"
Henry's eyes scanned the message.
"On our way south. Should be there by tomorrow. FYI, it looks like the Hecateans employed some mercenary help, and they're on Crete right now. Watch your backs." "Mercenaries?"
"Shouldn't be too big a problem. Mercenaries can be negotiated with," Henry said. "Plus, they typically come in much lower numbers." He pulled out the 2 coins wrapped in violet cloth. "In the meantime, you can explain these to me, in full."
"Right," Marion sighed. "Let's see. I guess I don't have much to tell aside from—"
"Tell me everything," Henry said. "Let's be thorough, even stuff I already know." She frowned at him.
"Will it coax the stick out of your ass?"
"Only one way to find out." She rolled her eyes, so Henry rolled his back. Marion blew a raspberry.
"Okay, the beginning. So I got kicked out of the Palatine Order and had to scrounge up some money. So I did a job for the Greeks. They were digging up some old rocks in Bulgaria. The South Slavs weren't happy about it. But they were excavating this old Macedonian tomb, and one night I got a dream from that armored man in front of the big gates. He directed me to Iraq and the ruins of Babylon, where I found my coin. And then I had a second dream from that, which led me to Morocco."
"Your coin?" Henry asked.
"Yes, my coin."
Marion snatched the wisdom coin out of his hand.
That one is yours. Henry narrowed his eyes at her. What? Don't you know how to share? Marion said. We need all four, so stop being paranoid. He sighed. What does your coin do? It creates a huge amount of sunlight that destroys illusions and some enchantments. It also makes the undead dead again and banishes creatures not of this world. It's helpful that the spell looks the same as my Knaz rune. It's the thing I do when I blind people. On her forearm, she showed him the tattoo, shaped like a wide arrow without a stick. But that's about all I know. See, not much. Henry blinked. You could have explained it to me before. You must have been a delightful child. Just enjoy the beach, Marion sighed, propping herself up on her elbows as she laid back. Henry frowned. I've never really been one for beaches, personally. Why not? She shot a look at him. I'm not a huge fan of the ocean, Henry mumbled. You afraid of the ocean? We were just on a ferry. I didn't say I was afraid. I just like to avoid it if I can help it. It's fine if I'm on a boat or it's a lake or a river, he said. I mean, have you seen the shit that lives down there? The abominations? Do you know what a telescope fish is? Those are so far down, Marion protested. Well, I didn't exactly call it a rational aversion. Aversion? She scoffed. That's unfortunate, because now you and I, she pushed herself to her feet, are getting in the water. Henry gave her a glare. Come on. She held her hand out to him. Just the water. I'll teach you how to swim. I don't want to be exploring that cave at One Rock alone. I can swim. He took her hand, but didn't draw on any help when getting to his feet. I became the fastest swimmer in my middle school so I could get out of the ocean faster. Marion giggled, a sound he wasn't used to hearing from her, but one that put him at ease more than he expected. For all of human history, mankind has feared the ocean and its unfathomable depths, Henry said as Marion grabbed his wrist and dragged him down to the shoreline. You're a mythologist, you should know. I see no reason not to adhere to that wisdom. Tradition is not a valid argument. Just because something has always been done doesn't mean that it should continue being so. Oh no, Henry scoffed. Tell me, Marion, are you a fan of democracy? Yes, she quirked an eyebrow. What greater democracy, then, is there than the democracy of the dead? All the dead people that came before us voted and did things a certain way that worked for them, more or less. Granted, democracy isn't perfect, but compared to the oligarchy ruled by a tiny minority of those still alive, I think dead democracy is the morally righteous option. Well, societies tend to self-proliferate. Most people had values instilled in them before they got the chance to vote on whether they liked said values over any others, Marion responded. The blank slate argument. I think it's going a bit overboard to say people were brainwashed into participating in culture. Doesn't that justify authoritarian regimes to program people with correct values? Marion scoffed. You're such a nerd, Heinrich. She turned to him, hands folded behind her head with a sly smile on her face. And all this to justify your fear of the beautiful sea. Henry glanced down. He was standing in the coastal waters, the pleasantly chill waves lapping at his feet. See? Not so bad, is it? She put an arm around his shoulders. All right, you don't have to patronize me. He shrugged her off, but smiled, though some of his anxiety returned upon looking out into the bluer waters not far from where they stood. This is the Mediterranean Sea, anyway. It's not really an ocean. She scoffed again, punching him lightly on the arm.